Good evening, Judge Albie. Thanks so much for your time. Tell us why you launched the site.
You know, Sally, it was such fun. Constitutions are boring and worthy things. You put on a solemn face. And we had the Ndlovu choir singing the preamble with energy, with passion, with commitment, and different voices coming in and saying, you know, our Constitution is about us. It's who we are. It's the things we aim for, the things we want to achieve, and setting the tone for the kind of way that we want to display the Constitution. No, it's not just rah, rah, rah. These are very serious things about the injustices of the past, about achieving justice and equality, about the contributions that have been made by all the people in South Africa, about human rights, but in a way that's approachable, that's interesting, vivacious, and captivating for young people and for old people.
You know, we do have a brilliant constitution, but we also live in a country where so many people are denied those rights. People are homeless, denied housing, live in poverty. They're victims of violence, gender, race inequality, unequal education. Some people might say, it's not done as much good having such a cool constitution. What would you say to them?
It's an absolutely legitimate point to make. But the fact is the Constitution doesn't build houses, it doesn't build schoolrooms, it doesn't deal in itself with racism, with corruption and so on. But what it does do is it gives us a sense of identity of who we are. It gives us instruments for dealing with these issues. It gives us the right to speak our minds. It gives you the right to ask me tough questions and for me to answer quite freely in discussions. And without that, then we're a society of chaos, of total abuse. So the Constitution is the better, if you like, the better angels of ourselves, the points of reference, the mechanisms for handling all the issues that you mentioned. And just as we got the Constitution through coming together, through very prolonged, thoughtful, best efforts, through finding ways of solving problems, so we have to use the Constitution in that same way to deal with the problems of today.
You know, Judge Albie, someone like yourself, you fought against apartheid, you were bombed, you were imprisoned, and you were there when our Constitution was born. It's obvious to someone like you why our Constitution is so important. How do you explain it to a child so that they really get it? And is that what this site does?
We have a main focus, not an exclusive focus, a young African child, black African child. The majority of young people come from that community, come from parents and grandparents who suffered so much through the injustices of apartheid, but also experienced the liberation, at least from formal racist government of apartheid. And they are the primary people who we hope will respond to and feel this is their Constitution, but not exclusively. It's there for everybody, for the children, grandchildren, from privileged communities, from other minority groups and so on. And we want it to be also accessible in the way that the media today can be accessible. It's through song, through imagery. We have wonderful animations. We have a brilliant artist named Paula, who's following instructions to even represent me, to capture me sitting around a table with Zola Squia and Penel Maduna and Bridget Mabandla, with music, to give it a South African quality and timbre and feeling, dealing with very serious ideas and great difficulties, and the loss of Steve Biko, and the role of different leaders, Oliver Tambo, and Robert Sobukwe from different sides, different camps, if you like, in the freedom struggle, of F.W. de Klerk coming into a different stage, to make it animated and alive, because in fact, in reality, it was very alive. So we want to now use the website to tell these stories in a way that's accessible, that's dependable, that's based on documents, sources, photographs from the time, and that is captivating. And we had a wonderful response last night.
It sounds wonderful. How concerned are you, as a former Constitutional Court judge, that South Africa is at risk of ignoring or forgetting the principles enshrined in our Constitution? I suppose I want to get a sense of, there will always be people who ignore the Constitution, but is there a growing move away from those principles that you are truly concerned about?
I think there's growing concern that many of the principles and values that we fought so hard for are not being maintained and are not central to the public life, the economic life, sometimes even the sporting life of the nation. On the other hand, we have people who dance. Jerusalem is out there. There's a spirit in South Africans of inquiry, of challenge that's very much constitutional. And we have elections. And so far our elections have been free and fair. And if the ruling party loses in Joburg, they cede, they fight back, but they concede. We have a lot of bright activity in our country. We have strong media. We have great investigative journalists. We have lively and competing, if you like, TV stations. So these are all aspects of constitutionalism that are strong and alive and well in our country. What's not strong is the degree of integrity we expect from people exercising positions of authority and power. We don't have the peace that we want in our streets, in our homes, freedom from violence. We have gender-based violence. It's not new, but it hasn't subsided. It hasn't gone away in keeping with the very strong equality principles in our Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, Judge Albie, I know that you knew Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who passed away last Friday. Could you share with us your experience of her? I know that she was a fan of South Africa and our Constitution, and she visited the country. But what legacy does she leave, not just in the USA, but even for people like us here in South Africa? Perhaps just share your recollections of her, if you would.
Well, I'll just give you one little story. When I saw her about 18 months ago, a very proud assistant took me from the street past the bookshop to her chambers, and I saw 2/3 of the books were about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and almost all the others were about Sonia Sotomayor. I eventually got to her and I said, Ruth, why is it you've become so famous? And she said, Albie, I haven't changed. It's the country that's changed. And suddenly I've been made into a figure, a symbol of things that people want. And she didn't spell it out, but they wanted integrity, they wanted honesty, they wanted fairness, they wanted somebody. She was little, she was just over 5 foot tall, she had a soft voice, she wasn't charismatic at all. And people wanted that. They didn't want a big, blustery, bullying kind of a figure representing public authority. So it wasn't only that she was a brilliant legal thinker, a great feminist. There was something in her very modesty of her presence, her style of doing things, that represented something beautiful that people wanted. And now she's lying in state. She's lying in state with thousands of people streaming by. Even the president came to pay his respects. This is this very tiny woman who loved visiting our court, who loved South Africa, who loved me as I loved her. And I think of her with deep emotion as somebody far away and yet very close to us in terms of what we're trying to achieve in South Africa.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for sharing that memory with us and also for telling us all about this site, which is called Our Struggle, Our Freedom, Our Constitution. It's a website all about our Constitution, a wonderful living document. Former Constitutional Court Judge Albie Sachs, thank you very much for your time.